Guys, welcome again. This is A&W podcast show. I'm Wale, aka Walls.
And I'm A.D.E, Mr. Africans Do Everything. Welcome.
Thank you for joining us again. I hope everyone's enjoyed the Easter break, and I hope you ate as much and you're still looking after yourself. On today's topic, or on today's podcast, we'll be looking into protest. What is protest? How effective protest is, and what changes come about after protest.
Yeah, so basically, if you don't know what protest is like a kind of form of a march to try and send a message and get a message out to the government. That's the way I see it, kind of, per se.
Yeah, I mean, other people could look at protest as a freedom of expression to sort of my colleague, my brother said, to get a message across to the people that you're trying to reach. And what the purpose of us doing this topic today is to kind of look at it from a outside point of view and how effective the whole protest is, and does he actually achieve the objective of it, and how we can do things differently to maybe reduce the impact of, in terms of the negative impact that the protests have on our community. And on that subject, we'll be looking at some of the past protests and riots and what changes has come about since then. And hopefully we'll be able to sort of speak on other topics as well while doing this.
So is riot opposite of a protest?
Well, I mean, according to my research and my understanding, protest is meant to be like a peaceful march to kind of like get people together with a common interest or common goal, and to sort of like get their message in one voice across to their target audience. The difference between protest and riot is almost like the opposite side. It's not peaceful. It's like a expression of frustration and anger from people that feel oppressed or feel like they're not getting their voice heard. And this is part of what we're going to be speaking about today, because from the protests that I've been either witness to or I've heard about, we tend to see the damage that this does to the actual local community. And I'll use an example. When Mac Duggan got killed, there was a protest that ensued afterwards. And I was in Croydon, not necessarily being part of the protest, but just to see what was happening. And there's a few things that I picked up from the protests. I noticed that a lot of the local youths, they were breaking to corner shops, Tesco, running out with packs of cigarettes, bottles of wine, bottles of milk, cartons of milk, drinks. And it kind of like made me feel some type of way about it, because I looked at it like, that is more or less looting, as much as we want to look at it any other way. Because, for example, now the next day after the protest, your mum send you to the local shop to go and buy milk, bread. You get to the shop is locked up because it's been broken into. These are people that are literally providing for the local community that are being affected in a negative way, and it's affecting their pocket. So to me, I'm just thinking in regards to protest, we need to find a way that we can have more impact with the government and the MPs, so that we can get the changes that we're actually fighting for to be put in place.
Well, from my experience, I remember the McDuggan protest as well. I was actually on a trip doing foundation work for Sickle Cell Society, right. And I remember a trip coming back, and I can see a fire in a shop in Peckham, and people were just looking out the window, and I'm just thinking, wow, what's going on in London? You understand? And one thing I noticed about protest, and one thing we look on that side, is that I don't really, since everyone has been protesting, I don't think they've ever been a solution to any protest that they've done. You understand? So That's why it goes and leads to rioting. You understand?
Yeah.
I've never experienced rioting myself. I would love to grab a couple of TVs and radios.
It doesn't mean that.
We're not supporting that, but I would love to go and do that. But why? What is the point of damaging the community that I'm living in? The same people that I'm going to still be seeing. That's why I don't get involved with that. I mean, if we want to go to Park Lane, yeah, that looks alright. But like the same the same area that I'm living in, that I'm still gonna be saying the same people. Why destroy it? And a lot of people did get away with a lot of stuff. I remember I was hearing news about quarries in Brixton getting looted, and I was like, "Can I join?" But I was like, what am I gonna carry out of there? You understand? So sometimes, and the solution that our people, think of a protest is by looting and getting stuff out of the shop, because they believe that if the government is not paying attention to what they have to say, they have to make their voice heard. And I think that rioting is the only option that they have, which I don't suggest. You understand? They need to find ways to actually listen to people and find the problem to their solutions, that rather than getting violence. And it seems like violence is the only way people get to pick up their pen or pick up their telephone.
I mean, just to kind of like use a few examples. Last year we had the Lekki toll gate massacre.
Yes, in Nigeria.
If a lot of people are not sure what that is, that's basically there was a protest in Lagos last year in a toll gate, and basically the army were instructed to shoot at the protesters, and a lot of them got killed. And to kind of bring back the point I'm making initially about the whole protest, the people that lost their lives during this protest, till as we're speaking now, they've not had justice.
Nope.
The investigation that was carried out from the police and the government suggested that there was no strong evidence to say that was the case. That's one example. Let's look at like Black Lives Matter that happened last year with George Floyd, right? When we think about it deeply, at the moment, we're in 2021 April now, the trial's going on for the police officer that's accused of killing George Floyd. And as far as I'm aware, and as far as I know based on how things go, don't quote me, but I won't be surprised if this police officer is not found guilty. And it then kind of like make us feel, okay, the whole protest, what has it achieved? Yeah. Let's look at from the research that I've carried out, some of the most influential, not even protests, riots that we've had in the last 100 odd years. I'm just gonna look into a paper because I don't remember all of it off by heart.
No, you're good. Good. We're not machine.
One of them was Boston Tea Party riot, which was in December 16th of 1773. If you want to look into these dates and these riots, there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. Another one was Women's Suffrage Parade, which was in March 3rd, 1913. And just to kind of like, these two examples that I've given are American based, and the ones that happened in the UK was General Strike in 1842, where half a million people came out to protest to sort of change the standard of living of people. And also, there was another protest in 1963, which was Bristol bus boycott. So this are a few protests and riots that's actually had any sort of influence according to history. So for our community, this is just my own suggestion. Don't take my word for it, but I feel like this is something that will be more effective, which I feel other communities are doing. Rather than us having protests about these things, why don't we create a system that can fight for us within the legal system, within the political parties? To kind of break this down, let me let you guys know what I mean by that. If, for example, now when it comes to election time, all of us as a community, we have one agenda, which is to unite ourselves and then select someone within the party that has our best interest at heart. And when I say that, we will have a list of demands that we want. And with this demand, we will promise whoever this candidate is, black, white, Asian, whoever it is, that if they can fulfill our demands, we will guarantee them 2 million black votes. And with doing this, the person that's representing us would have to make sure that the candidates fulfill those commitments, because if they don't, we have legal system that is black owned that will fight this politician in the court system to say they've gone against their commitment to us. This is simple things that we need to have in place, that the Jewish community have in place already, the Chinese community have in place already, the Indian community have in place already. Yeah. So to kind of go back to what I'm trying to get at, protest is good, but it's not very effective. Having a structured system in place is more effective. And it also goes to the police system. Let's look at it this way for a second. For example, a black community, predominantly black, but white police officers like policing these communities, is counterproductive. So we as a community need to have some sort of system. I don't know what the word is, but in terms of police patrolling certain community, have to look like the people that they patrol, they're policing. So for example now, if let's say Brixton or Peckham, and you've got black police officers that are predominantly the one patrolling these areas, one thing that would happen is you build familiarity,
Yeah.
which then would sort of build the whole essence of trust and community. And once we have this in place, these police officers with the right mindset would go and represent us against any sort of injustice that we do feel like we're being put through. So I feel like this is sort of things that we need to like start speaking about and try to identify ways that we can set up this sort of system in place.
I heard what you're saying about setting up the system, but arguably in the system that you live in, do you see that happening?
Well, to be honest with you, there's always the first stage or first step to take.
Okay.
And if we don't act on it, we will never know.
You know, but I mean, when the Black Lives Matter protest came about, I was a bit like, okay, this is new. So we have a protest because of black skin matter. I thought we matter every day. You understand? And to now do the research and find out the person that's actually owning the organization is not even from the people of my background.
Yep.
So how does that mean? What does your protest mean? And when the football hooligans and the community came to clash in London, you understand? And it's so funny how when our people protest or something, there's always a big presence of the law around.
Yes.
And they're abusing and attacking people.
Yes.
Look at, for example, when the Senate, the American people attacked the Senate office.
Yep, the capital.
And then the way police violence towards these people was like, it was...
There was none.
It was reduced.
They were even open the barriers for them, like,
You
just
understand?
go through, guys.
You understand? So I don't understand, like, you're right, the system is basically set up to make us lose in any ways that we want. No matter how many protests that you put out there, there's nothing that's been resolved and has been done.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but I think that's why my people always resort to riot.
Yeah.
You understand? And I'm not supporting or condoning the riots, but I think that's the only way you can get a message out there. You understand? So that people will pay attention to that. Now, this is a serious case. For example, stabbing with youths in London. So many protests has been done, but nothing ain't being done to stop because it's not their own that's dying. But if there's somebody else dying, they probably put a law that if anybody catch knife, you get 20 years in jail or something like that. if it's coming from their community. But because it's not a community and we're not in our own country, you think this is happening in your community in Africa somewhere? Do you think the holidays will not catch them already? You understand? Because they know that, okay, this is killing our own people. But if it's not hurting their own people, they ain't gonna put no law into places. So me, I think the protest sometimes is just a waste of money and waste of time.
Also, to kind of put it into a different angle, the saddest part of the whole protest is most of the protests that's happened in the last few years, there are people that are financially gaining from this.
Yes.
And it's at the expense of people's lives. Just to kind of like put things into perspective, when we look at like Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, R.I.P. to both of them, between them and now, there's been hundreds of deaths.
Yeah.
There's been hundreds and
That's
hundreds
not
of
been
deaths.
showed.
So why is the Black Lives Matter protest not focusing on every single death? Do you want to know why, guys? Because according to my research, some police brutality case or some death that can be proved that police are guilty of, there are budget allocation, there's financial budget for this sort of things, which means this company's Black Lives Matter, these reps that are repping the so-called movement, they're getting paid from the sorrow of people that are actually losing their lives. So when we look at it from that angle, how can our own people be championing for us, but it's only at the gain of their own pocket? If you guys don't know what I mean by this, look like the last few protests that we've had that's been very, very influential in our community. Yeah, George Floyd family currently got paid $27 million. Yeah, and that's just to his family. Now think about it, like the Black Lives Movement, the faces like Myson, a few artists that's been the face of this movement. Do you think they didn't get paid? This thing should be done out of the goodness of your heart because you care about the people that are losing their lives. But why is it that you guys only pick and choose when you see the financial benefit from it? So these are the sort of things that we need to identify. Like, are people actually getting paid for this protest that's not achieving what the masses want?
Yes, I think that's about it.
You know,
it's deeper than that.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, just
like sorry to cut you off. Like for the protest like side of things, how can I phrase this? What was the most protest case have you ever seen? Is it racial? Is it crime? Is it?
I'm so happy that you said that. Just to kind of not make it a race thing, the last protest or the last movement that I felt that was very influential in terms of people getting arrested for past crimes is the Me Too movement. And when you look at the Me Too movement, really and truly, yeah, yes, it's for women, but who championed it? What were they looking like? And who were most of the victims? Yeah, so when it suits the people that are making the decisions, they go for it. But when it comes to us, they just give, it's like they know they're doing something wrong, but they'll give it a little leeway to say, okay, go and rant, we'll let you rant, but nothing's gonna change, you know? So a few of them has been influential, but I think it's more a case of something that would financially affect the pockets of the government, you know? So yeah, it's sad, but I think we need to find a new way in this new century of how to get our voice heard in the House of Parliament, in within the government. You know, we have to find a new ways to let them know that things are not the way we want it to be, and if we're not happy with the way they're doing things, in the next election we would have to elect someone else.
So would you say protest is effective? Yes or no?
Protest is definitely not effective. Putting in place a structured system to fight against the oppression, to fight against the government, in a very diplomatic way is the way forward.
Wow, I like the way you put that statement. So I think that's the end of A&W podcast for this week. Like we said, if you need any message, just leave it at the bottom and we'll read it. And thank you for the followers that's watching and keeping in touch with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Make sure you like, subscribe, press that button.
And if you don't press it, we're gonna protest.
Until we see you guys next time, stay safe and look after yourself.
Bye. Yeah.
I wonder how long that was.